No, I was sick last year. So this is just
So you're starting?
Okay.
So my symptoms, and then on Wednesday.
Good afternoon, good evening, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. So we'll start
Thank you for asking.
calling the meeting to order. I think we have quorum. We have more than 3 of us here. So let's first item on the agenda is the review and adopt the agenda for this meeting. Can I have a motion to?
So moved.
Second.
Can I second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So move. Approval of the minutes from our meeting from last October 11.
I noticed that Tinley's name was missing, right?
Yeah.
Were you there? Were you
I
involved?
was there, yeah.
My
Yeah.
apologies.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
fine, don't worry.
I was thinking you probably just cut and paste over, so, yeah.
And that probably was what happened. So,
Other than that, I thought they looked good.
I'm really bad. I just go straight reading. I don't look at the spot.
So with that correction, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion accepted, approved, moved. Next item on our meeting is item number 4. Was there any public questions or public input that you got?
I haven't received any.
Okay, so I'm gonna go skip over that one. Action item was the very extensive discussion we had on policy on the room. Patrick, you want to just carry us through on that one?
Yeah, the two main changes are, number one, remain that we added individuals can book it, which was the same as last time. The second was after the conversation at the previous meeting, and with that, my team, and we cut out all such as, for examples, anything that seemed to reek of process, and try to make this as we were directed to make it much more a policy than it had been in the past. So we hope that these changes are what you're looking for.
I thought it read very clearly.
I thought it read really well. I was trying to, when I read it, I keep telling myself there's a regulation and there's a policy, and this is different from regulation. You know what, when you mentioned that, so I said, yeah, it was well. Nicely written for policy. So if there are no discussion, in addition to this, can I? Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring up tutoring, reading. In reading, should a teacher in the summer ask for a room, let's say 2 Tuesdays, 3 Tuesdays in a row, a smaller room to tutor a student in reading? The teacher, this is real, this happened in the Minnetonka School District. They tutored, and I helped students too, but without pay there, in the main area of the library, because the old Excelsior library did not have small rooms. And first of all, do you, in your libraries, have this happening?
Oh yeah, we have lots of tutors.
Yeah.
However, they are not doing it for, they're doing it for money. So they're using our meeting rooms to make money. Now, if they were like with RIF or some organization where they were volunteering, then they could certainly book a room. But if they were booking a room to make money, then they have to pay.
And they are currently, it would be Jen Chanhassen, are they asking for either of those 2 smaller rooms?
Well, what they tend, and we have nowhere the tutors that we used to. I just want to say that, first of all. We're down to like, I only see one that we used to have. Is they will just come and sit at a table in the back if one of the small meeting rooms is not available.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, my wife does that, but she does it in the Eden Prairie one.
Okay.
She can book it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
like, book
Eden
it
Prairie
weeks in
allows you to
advance.
book the small meeting rooms.
Right.
The individual meeting rooms, and since I have been there, that was not something that was done, and if we were direct, if you want us to do that, we certainly will do that. The manpower, or the staff power it takes to monitor that
Right, I understand that.
is just something that Mary, who's Beth's predecessor, didn't really have the stomach for,
Okay.
for lack of, for putting it mildly. So if there's no other changes, what we'll now do is go back and take a lot of these such as and examples and put it in some guidelines that would give the meeting room, the primarily person Amanda, who books the meeting room, some more direction. We feel that this policy is now strong enough that we can make good guidelines.
So I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank
I'll
you.
second
Can I
that.
get a second? And all in favor? Say
Aye.
aye. Thank you. Motion
Thank you.
And I
policy
pick
adjustment
up who
approved.
Good job.
I didn't pick up who approved and who seconded.
I made the motion.
Thank you.
And I think
I'll second it. Subsequently to the good job, Charles. That's good.
next item, again, Patrick, is the Melsa Library Technology and Digital Service survey.
Okay, so
There's a lot to read.
take a look at this.
Yeah,
Right.
that's-
There's lots of nice bar charts.
I like that. It's pretty.
I'm just going to point out three things. One is, on the first page, it talks about the methodology, and I'll answer any questions you have about this, so I'll be very quick. We had a really good response rate compared to the other systems. Everyone else was around 15, and we were 19.
Right?
So that's great. It's also only 343 people. So I think we have to keep that in mind, that we're looking at a very small percentage of our population of the county. Related to that, the last sentence about comparisons of key demographics groups could not be made. 98% of the people who took the survey reported as Caucasian. So we had a very, very low response rate upon people who did not identify as Caucasian. And again, I'll break down as much demographics as we want at another time. So that's the methodology. The second thing is the results, which again, you guys can read through this. I just want to talk about the existing services. Charging ports are part of the Dalkey grant that you guys approved, so those will be hopefully in many of the libraries by March. And these other three are just mysterious to me, because we have these things, we've had these things for years, and yet they're things that people say they want. So that's a little mysterious, and I will get to the obvious follow-up question in a second. Video conference rooms, our buildings are not really configured for these. This is one of the reasons, though, we did allow the small meeting rooms to be used for people doing interviews. Docking stations, I think, is a very interesting idea, maybe something for future Dalkey grants. And tablets we've had at our libraries in the past. And I know you were at Victoria when there were tablets, and
they didn't get utilized, they weren't being utilized much because that community just, everyone coming into that particular branch has access to it, so,
Right.
yep.
They have been at Chaska.
The which one? The tablets?
Yeah, one in particular I know is mom was working on a classwork at a public computer and had an infant with her. And the infant was getting fussy, so we could get her on a Chromebook in a study room and have more room for the child to move around and do stuff. And then mom could still be working on her coursework.
Like docking station, what would? Because every laptops have very different brands
I know.
have very different docking
yeah,
stations.
yeah. So I don't know what that would look like. I don't know if it would be like, this is the Apple docking station, this is the Dell docking station.
Yeah, but-
That's
May not be practical for
we'd
that
have to ask Bob to investigate. So I think my main point here is a lot of the four biggest existing services we either have or we will have soon. So the third thing is what's going to happen with this data. is we're gonna break it down at a management team agenda in 2023. We'll spend some more time going over the management team with it, about what we wanna do. I think this will inform as we look at new buildings, because some of this stuff, like places to do video conferencing, isn't something we can do in our current buildings. So I think this really informs New Chaska, a newer Victoria library, what it would do. And then a few of the action items might be things that we might want to consider as a Dalkey grant down the road. So that was the overview. Small response rate. Lots of people want stuff we're already doing. And we have, as 2023, we're going to dig into this data more and see what it says. We just got this a month ago, maybe. And we wanted to get it to you right away.
You know, one thing that you have to keep in mind on the responses, you mentioned that we have some of these things and people are saying that they would use it if we had it. You don't know exactly how that question was worded. It could be essentially, would you use these things? It has absolutely no question about whether the library has it or not.
Right, right.
You know, and to separate those, you really have to address each one separately.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and actually look. That's a great point. I don't, I helped Wilder. There was a group, there was a representative from every NOLSA system that worked with Wilder Research on coming up with the questions. That was just so long ago we did it, I don't remember them. I did want to point out though, in the existing services, that 90% of the people did report they like what we're doing. So that's, anytime you get 90% on a satisfaction survey, that's pretty good.
Excellent.
I don't know what the other 10% are upset about though.
Some people just do it very high.
Is
Yeah.
there like more detailed demographics? Like, do you see more from like of the 300 plus respondents? Do you see how many from like one city over the other cities
No,
within
it
Carver?
was just Carver County.
Okay.
One of the things we wanted to do that it's one of those things you get on a committee, you're like, oh, I can only really, you only have so much powder of things you want to fight for.
Right.
And the thing I really, really wanted them to do, and they were not able to do it for whatever reasons, was to do online focus groups of rural residents.
That's where I was going to get
Focus
because
groups they did
outside.
were in the city of Hennepin, in Dakota County, and in Ramsey County. But to talk to people in Norwood, Watertown, New Germany, Mare, that's what I wanted. Or up in Anoka, and St. Francis, and some of the more rural areas there. And they just wouldn't do it, couldn't do it. So that was really disappointing to me, because I think that is where our digital needs are probably more in our rural areas than they are in our cities.
So I had
Yeah,
a comment and a question. So we have a fax machine?
yeah.
Where is it?
It's at the desk, and the reason it's at the desk is right now we're charging for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so people still send fax?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I thought your question should have been, we still have one?
Yeah, I know.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's lots of government forms.
Yeah.
Exactly, and people that are turning in time cards for different program
Yeah.
Okay.
type of employment things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
An
my
assumption,
experience
I
is
guess.
that certain regions of the world are still heavily on fax. Like in Asia Pacific, it's heavily on fax. They want that tangible piece of paper.
You find a lot of lawyers will be using faxes too. Is that correct?
They don't use a fax, no, yeah, for years.
A lot of,
If you have legal forms, you mean, or something like
Well,
that.
I don't know about all of them, but.
And then my other question was just, did you have access to look at, the other data?
Yeah, I mean, I
And so-
get
I just
access-
wondered if anything popped out that was dramatically different for Carver County from the aggregate.
The main thing that was different was the low band of demographics.
Okay.
The other systems had a little bit wider band. There were more people who reported not, lower income, younger. We just reported, just pretty narrow.
but this is Carver County,
Yeah,
and the county differs from,
exactly. So, and this is, if this is representative of what the county demographics are, which it totally isn't, it's still a little bit skewed towards a more homogeneous population.
So the 98% is Carver County's respondent of 98% Caucasians.
No, it was higher than that. It was like 98 if I remember.
Right. So 98% for Carver County.
Yes, that's who
Responded.
responded to this survey.
Oh,
Yeah.
Patrick, I suppose you know all of you know what goes on in all of the other areas, libraries. I attended just an absolutely outstanding summary of just what you were talking about in SELCO.
Selco, yeah.
So they do say Selco, okay, and then I'm looking at, all right, I'll just give you a background of what they did. In March and June 2022, Library Strategies partnered with Selco to conduct 33 site visits, 40 focus groups, 70 one-on-one interviews, and to administer a survey across the region's 11 counties service area. And I have a summary here. It was just, well, everything I attended was excellent at the wonderful place, but Trend 3, Rural Community Challenges, and it tells all of just what you are talking about. Of course, we will find maybe some differences, but I'm not so sure because they talked about distance and transportation comprise the first challenge, simply put, the time commitment, fuel cost, inclement weather risk, and related factors associated with a visit to the library represent a real check for many families who would otherwise patronize. This thing is thorough, though, and I was going to give it to all of you to look at. The presentation for 1 hour was just, we could hardly breathe listening to it. It was just revealed so much about what the community is doing and how they feel about their libraries. But I was paused here. It was part of my little presentation later in the evening.
Cool.
Can I read it?
yeah, I was just surprised that only 19% responded when they sent out 1,900.
That's not unusual.
Is it?
And surveys are getting worse in response. How many surveys have you gotten by phone recently?
I don't pick them up.
I never get any because I don't answer the phone. One thing about surveys or any of these things is that the only people who are responding are the people who are willing and able to respond.
Right, I guess,
The
yeah.
rest of the population does not.
But this was mail out, right? This wasn't call in.
It was a mail survey.
Right.
Same thing.
Why don't you respond, Frank?
There's a number of reasons. So some people just plain don't respond.
How about you?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Too many surveys. Also, I know how surveys are developed and how they're validated or not validated.
So
I
you
used
don't
to
think they're
develop
valid? So
surveys.
you don't think they're valid? Is that what you're saying?
No, you can have a very good survey and a very valid, and there's a difference between validity and reliability. Surveys are very difficult to validate, which simply means, are they measuring that which they are supposed to be measuring?
Okay, gotcha.
And that's an issue that is very hard to do with surveys. And most survey developers don't bother. They'll use what's known as face validity. It looks like it's asking the right questions. They don't know whether it is or not for sure. And that as they say, is a lengthy process to validate and costly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's back from my old psychometric days.
All right, well, if you want, what I can certainly do is when we dig into the data more in 2023, I can come back and tell you more what we're going to do with it. But I just really wanted you guys to get a taste of what this survey said at this point.
Thanks, Pat.
A survey they plan to continue to do, or was it just a one-time?
No, they did it before I got here, 2018, I think.
Maybe every 5 years or so?
Yeah, it's when they get money. Because it's expensive,
Yeah.
especially
So
surveys.
who
are
funds this? Is the- is-
And hiring
is
Wilder
the-
Research.
the state
I
funds
think all the
this,
stuff
or-
you talked about, they get that.
Yes.
Wilder is very well
Wilder is an
respected.
excellent organization.
Who,
But
who
they don't
funds
have-
who funds the survey?
It was probably a grant from either an LSTA grant or maybe it was COVID money even, since it was
I
about
think it was,
technology.
yeah, I'm thinking it was LSTA,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, that was really good. Going on to the next section, administrative reports. Team updates, collection.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Hempkin. I work at the Chaska Library. I'm the chair of the collection team and Patrick is our management liaison. And I was here a year ago to tell you what we were doing, and now I'm going to update you. We've had a busy year, and there is a one-page handout with some of our highlights. I was going to focus on 3 of them, but I welcome any questions or comments. And so we started out and we saw increases in our circulation in 3 areas because of intentional changes we made. And so we had parts of our collection that we floated. So if you checked it out at one place and returned it somewhere else, it would stay there until it was requested. And so we found, we tried this for a while and we found in this younger age group that was reading that things were pooling in one area and someone would have too much or too little, or if I would buy things for our community, maybe for more Spanish speakers and that they ended up in different places where maybe they weren't used as much. So we evaluated that and decided to stop floating, and we saw increased circulation in that. We have both juvenile and adult graphic novels. They were all sort of lumped together, and we've seen more and more people wanting to read nonfiction graphic novels. And I think this is a bigger trend too, that people are more interested in reading nonfiction as entertainment. And so they're better written and they're more, and so people would go searching specifically for nonfiction and it would be buried in the other ones. And so we separated those out and created for the 3 different reading levels, nonfiction and fiction. So those who wanted one over the other could find it easily and saw more circulation there.
And that was with graphic novels.
With graphic novels at juvenile, teen, and adult. We also had 6 very small collections of adult graphic novels, and we decided to go to the 2 larger locations in Waconia and Chanhassen and create 2 bigger collections for the adults and see if we could get more use and circulation there, which we have, and then and have 2 really good collections. We feel comfortable that adults, especially in this area, know I want this series and are using the computers or talking to us. Whereas children, we want to keep those juvenile ones at each location so they can come in and browse and find that new dog man and stuff like that. And so for the younger kids, we're keeping it at all 6 locations, and for the adults, we're putting a bigger collection in 2 areas instead of 6 small ones spread out. And we've seen positive results from this in increased circulation. Another thing is we're having more, we had a shift in our collection. So in 2020, we had 20% of our budget went to e-resources, e-books, e-audio, e-magazines, mainly through Libby. And then in 2021, we increased that to 25%. But if you look here, we've seen this helped that we had a 52% increase in circulation of those e-resources. And if you look at the next part, like our monthly average circulations in 2021 is 12,338 monthly. And then in 2022, we went up to 1,838. So we had an increase of about over 6,000 items on average per month. When the Libby and Overdrive first came out, you know, you'd be like, the book you want that has a huge paper waiting list of 200 people, you could just read it here. Here, take this Kindle, take this device. No. You know, now we're seeing a flip of that, and people want it on their devices. Maybe part of this is because of COVID, that people were using it more during that. And a lot of people, too, want it both. They're putting their names on both lists to see whichever they can get first there. And so we're also seeing an increase on the holds on this. And so for the e-titles that Carver County Library purchases, just what we purchase in our county, we are seeing over 9,562 holds on the e-items we own. By comparison, on the physical books, we're seeing 7,553 holds. And when you look wider at the whole MELSA resources you have, we're seeing over 9,200 holds. And so the need and the desire for ebooks and e-resources is just booming. And then we're seeing over in Carver County alone, more than 300 Carver County Library card holders signing up to use Libby per month. And so this is great. I mean, it's great that we want people to use this, but then it's like, oh my goodness, everyone's using this. And so we need to know how do we manage those holes. Some of the benefits with the ebooks are, I love reading mysteries, and so I'll stay up till 2 in the morning finishing that mystery, and I will tap return and send it back. I'm not going to drive the library at 2 in the morning to return it, but I will tap a button. My dog won't eat the book, you know, they aren't going to be overdue. But if you think it can't be overdue, my dog doesn't eat it, I can return it early, and we still have all these holds. And so one of our goals for next year is to look at how do we manage this, and part of it we started with developing a collection plan for digital. And we have an ask for our 2024 budget to increase that to 30% of our budget going toward those e-resources. And so we're building on that for next year. Last time I was here, I talked a lot about our diversity audit. We have worked on that, and we've continued to work throughout the year, and we received a Dalkey grant that I'm going to be working on with the team and youth services to do training for more diverse story times and more diverse collection. I've also had opportunities now that COVID is loosening a little bit to do more outreach and seeing people really respond to the books that are outreach and coming in the libraries and seeing the more diverse books there. It never ends, and it shouldn't, but I'm really excited that we have this concentrated time period of support to develop this. The Dalkey grant to sustain it and move it forward, and then it's just going to be ongoing. And we want this to be a regular part of our collection that we keep learning and growing and developing. We have different funding we received for the book clubs in a bag, a Dalkey grant for the mobile hotspots, which ties in with the need for, like Patrick was talking about, that there was a 43% increase in circulation for those hotspots, and then we've received a Dalkey grant to continue that. We are working with our DVD collection to, in 2023, we'll see the loan period change for 2 weeks. For a movie, that doesn't mean that much, but if you're trying to binge a whole series, I find that if I try and binge it in a week, I hate the series I loved. But anyway, we're moving forward with that. And then also, Patrick and Heather have taken a lead, and our tech team with Scott and Catherine have been working on how to develop reports that we have with our new vendors to create circulation reports by Dewey number, which can be really important when we look at the age of our science books, our health books, STEM books for kids. We don't want really outdated books. We also can compare circulation month to month. We can look at hold ratios. We can look at last copies of books that are withdrawn. Patrick and Heather have really taken a lead on this, and it's going to be a really good tool, not the only tool, but another tool to add to help us look at our budget and where we need books and how we can best use that money. Heather will be the incoming chair for 2023 and 24. She was really instrumental in unfloating the teen collection and the easy readers. I really respect what she's doing with our reports, and that'll be a great tool that she'll bring to this chair and skill sets along with other skills. And so let me stop for a minute, because, you know, I love this stuff and can talk more, but I want to hear any questions, comments that you have.
Well, the ebooks that you recommended for me to read on Bluetooth while I was driving up to Duluth to the conference, I could not get one. I could borrow,
Oh.
no, I could hold
Yep.
on every type you
Yes.
gave me.
Yes. Yep, we're seeing more and more of those holds, and we want to be able to buy either extra copies to help with that, or maybe even more variety so you could find something else you like too. Yeah.
I wonder how many people do what I do. I check out a book and then also check out the audio book. So I can read it, which is, I don't like ebooks as much. And then when I, in my car, or go for a walk, I can keep reading it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm doubling up too.
Well, one thing I see at Chaska Library is people come in and they're like, oh, my hold is here, and they go to the hold shelf and they're like, oh, I read it already on an ebook and I forgot to cancel it and I thought I was getting something and I've already read it. So I think if people can remember to go in and if they've read it in some format or another, cancel some of those extra requests. But that's something we're going to have to look at because we don't want people to be frustrated, but this is just really booming and we still need to support print books and large print and you know, it's just a stretch to continue that.
I was just going to add that I'm on a team of people who do collection development at all of the metro libraries, and this is killing everybody. You know, each time we meet, it's like, okay, now the average wait list on a hold is 37 days. And 2 weeks later when we're meeting, the average wait hold is now 40 days. It's 45, the average is now 45 days. And all the systems are like, we have created a monster. A good monster, because people want to use it, but, you know, success breeds success breeds success breeds failure.
Is there any way to, like, I understand audio and or physical book, but if someone puts in both a hold on an e-book and a physical book,
Yeah.
if one comes up, can we drop that one?
Well, they have to take an action
Right.
and do that. It doesn't automatically go, oh, you checked out the physical book, because people like Gwen use both.
Right.
So
No, I mean, if I can understand the audio side, like audio works.
Yeah.
Audio is a different thing than actually physically reading.
Yeah.
So if you e-book, I'm assuming it's a reading item. So
Right.
you read either through a pad or through a physical book. If
Right.
one get picked up, it would be nice to be able to drop this one.
it would be nice, but,
Would
you know,
it be
technology
possible
is pretty
when
advanced.
somebody has a double booking like that, if they pick up their, let's say, e-book, and they have a physical book on reserve, is there any way of linking those two and just giving them a notice?
no.
See, that...
That's
that-
because Overdrive, it's two different collections.
Ah.
We own one collection, and then Melsa more or less owns the Overdrive
Right.
collection.
Okay.
So what tells us what's in, the two systems don't talk to each other for the most part.
I
So
think that
I mean,
could
that'd be
help
the best.
alleviate the
That'd be
backlog
absolute
too
best.
sometimes,
Yeah.
I think. Especially on
But
popular
then
books.
the issue with that though, Frank, is, I mean, I actually do what Gwen does. I have one book now, I have in both formats. I have an ebook, so when I'm away from my house, I remember where he is and I can read on it, and when I'm back in my house, I can read the physical book.
I wouldn't want to suggest that you have an automatic
Yeah.
drop, but remind a person
Yeah.
that they have it on the other list, and give them the option of deleting that or not deleting it.
But then that only works if they both talk, the two systems talk. If they don't
Well-
talk, that's where it,
I think around this, like at Victoria, we're doing a Libby night, and I think you're doing it at Waconia, like how to use Libby, maybe Watertown, or someplace that, one of your libraries that's doing it. So I think, you know, one of the things that,
Yeah, the tech
when people
survey.
said desired support for activities, downloading ebooks and audiobooks, so there's still some people who don't know how to do this, so I think we still need some patron education around ebooks, and I think that'd be perfect. Hey, if you get the ebook, drop your physical hold. If you get your physical hold, drop the ebook hold, unless you want to use both.
And when we were at 3M, there was a lot of limits on Kindles. And so now that we're on Libby that supports more of the Kindle formats, I think we're seeing more people be supported there and using that too.
Well, the other thing, I have to do my annual little plug for, I don't know, maybe it's more than annual. The magazine collection is just fantastic.
Yeah.
And You know, like if you go in the Target line, they've got these special edition magazines, they're like $12, $14. They're all on there too.
Yeah.
I mean, not
Yeah.
all, but
Yeah,
if I see one, it's just like, I probably, because I used to buy a lot of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
I probably saved a couple hundred a year.
Well, I like Food Network, and then you can
Yeah.
have your recipe there, or you can print it out if you want to.
Mhm.
Oh, can you print out from the magazine?
Yeah.
Okay, I need help with that.
You can always take a picture of your camera.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I have tried, I haven't figured it out yet. But like if I
Do
want to
that
write
one day.
out an article or something.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm intrigued.
When I download a magazine, a garden, for example,
Uh-huh.
or a book, I can't print it.
I think we've been doing that with Food Network. I don't know if there's like a printer friendly just for the recipes, that we're printing out the recipes. I'll have to look and see how I do that and let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was particularly with books.
Okay.
not the
Yeah,
magazine.
I haven't done that with books. The only thing I've printed out would be recipes from like magazines, e-magazines. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I love the enthusiasm.
These have been wonderful projects, and some of them, you want to do so much and there's some limits, but just to have the support to do these different projects and, you know, and just to see them continuing. This last week, I've been able to go to ECFE and talk to the parent groups about diverse books and why it's important to read them to your preschoolers. And we have some parents who are diverse who are like, where was this book when I was
Yeah.
growing up?
Right.
And now I can share it with my child. And we have other parents who are like, I don't know how to talk about this topic. And we're saying this is a good place to start in your home to share this book and have these conversations. And so I really appreciate the opportunities to work on these projects and then also to take them further and connecting with our customers and our partners in the community.
I was just gonna, sorry, that was such a nice finale. I feel like I'm going back now. I was just gonna talk about 11. It's receives funding for Life Initiative to purchase books about Afghanistan. Has there been any, and this might just be me that's in the dark about this, has there been any initiatives to purchase books surrounding, or ebooks or anything like that surrounding like Ukraine or Russia or any of those? Because I know especially in my youth kind of demographic, there's a lot of interest in like the history of that conflict and also just the culture of the places themselves. Because a lot of us haven't been to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's been to Mexico for vacation, but no one goes to Ukraine really around here, at least my friends at least. So I was just wondering if that was something that you guys had thought about before, if that was...
I've seen books that our selector is purchasing as they're being published that I've seen on our displays and things like that. I don't know of a specific foundation request
Right.
to do a bulk, larger purchase.
Yeah, so rather than normally how the system works is we would go to the foundation and say, hey, we want money for this. And in this case, the foundation came to us directly and said, here's the money, go buy this stuff. And we've not had that interest, but at the same time, Jennifer makes an excellent point of knowing this is of interest to people. Everything that comes out that is relevant and timely, Sarah's purchasing copies of.
And then also our Chaska Human Rights Committee had given us money through a donation to purchase books about immigrant and refugee voices. And that was great to highlight those voices from many cultures and areas. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. So you think that possibly we may be actually buying books you just don't know about? I mean, for the Human Rights Commission's funding, we may have some of those books there too?
Oh, yeah, we have. Well, we did that purchasing already.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just
Yeah,
waiting-
we
we're
get
just
very
waiting for-
spirited discussions, between my friends, like, what's going to happen, historically, does Russia have a claim and all that stuff, and that's a different discussion by itself, but there's a lot of discussion about that, Yeah. Thank you. It was very good.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you.
Jennifer. And now we have the budget.
Yes.
Oh, whoopee.
I'll try to present with the same enthusiasm as Jennifer.
I get the good talk.
I know, although I do have to disagree, I may have a dog that would eat my Kindle device. As does Paul, so more stories on that later. So in terms of the budget, this is the time of year where we just start to look very closely at where we're sitting with things. I know last month I mentioned, watching the collection budget carefully to make sure we're spending things out at this time of year and preparing with our processing and receiving for last shipment dates to make sure that everything that we possibly can have arrived by the end of the year and be prepared for fiscal year rollover with that piece happens in a timely manner. So that's a big piece right now. Certainly we are looking at if we've lost any revenue along the way in terms of fines and fees. And if so, how do we account for that? So this, in the next few weeks, we'll be meeting with our accountant from the county to really take a deep dive with that. And then just looking at our expenditures, any furniture, larger furniture pieces, that are coming in at this time of year and just making sure all that invoicing is being processed in a timely manner as well. But overall, we're sitting in a really good place. At our last budget meeting a couple of weeks ago with our accountant, we went through and we're looking quite good. So we're where we should be, definitely. And I was also in attendance at a Q3 finance meeting with some of the other county department heads. So again, we're in a really good place right now. So that's good. I don't know if anyone has questions about that I can try to answer, but.
Silly question, like in the collection section, in the reference and book and library material, you're coming in like really short so far.
So some of our shipments have been delayed. I would say accounts for some of that because of likely our book vendor on the other end. There's been just some delays, not on our end at all. Like our purchasers are ordering and doing what they need to do, but we've just been having to wait on some of those shipments arriving in a timely manner. So we're anxious, like when we see UPS coming in with a big load, we're all cheering in the administration saying, yes, this is what needs to happen. So we've been in contact with them just in this last week to ask, how quickly can we get some of these shipments in. And so there's gonna be a lot of work ahead in processing and receiving. But
I was just curious that if y'all don't get it by end of the year, do you accrue onto it then,
No.
and then just carry it to next year?
No, we can't, it's county money, so we can't do it. So what's gonna happen, first of all, every week we get a fund report.
Right,
That tells everyone who buys books, this is how much money you have left.
right.
So that's why we're pretty close at the end of the year. What will happen is around December, I can't remember when the final reception date is, like December 15th or something. Once everything's come in and been processed, we'll know exactly how much money is left. And then we say to Serena, here's some more money for digital collection. So it all gets spent. But I think we're going to do really, really well this year at getting the print budget spent, really close. Last year we were only off, I think Serena, no, it wasn't Serena. I think we only had swept up like $2,000-3,000. You
Okay.
consider it's a $400,000 budget.
Right.
That's pretty good work.
I was just scanning through looking for 20% differences and then this was pretty big. Sorry.
And it's totally supply chain and our vendor. Because it's been encumbered, it just hasn't been spent,
Okay. That's the only question I had. Any significant over expenditure, do you think, in any of your categories by end of the year?
I don't think so. And you may see in some cases, I can't think. There are some what we call prepays for some of our software subscriptions. So if you do see some areas that look like they may be overspent, it will be accounted for.
Those are slowly draw down, right?
Yeah, they'll make that accountant's in the first few months of the year when we get to that. So that can kind of skew it a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
The only comment is I like the fact that you used the word encumbered, because a lot of people don't realize that non-profit you have to encumber it and it's not expenditures.
I like to throw on a few things I've learned.
Thank you. So, do you have anything to report from your side? Director's report 7.3.
Library director's report.
Yes.
I will just mainly highlight that the library director position was posted as of last week, as of last Wednesday, and will remain up until November 21st for recruitment to happen for that position. Our employee relations from the county has posted it out to many of the kind of usual channels that they seek, including the Library Association's page for part of that recruitment. The staff will be given an opportunity for input along the way once the position closes and they move forward with that. Still to kind of be determined what that looks like, but we do know that. So I'm sure Nick Kaktavi will also keep you all up to date as that rolls forward.
I think you sent out an email about that. Like, will the interview process entail also the different library managers to?
We haven't learned quite who will be a part of that, the panels along the way. I think at one point it sounded like there'd be a couple of different layers of interview process. So, but yet to be.
I'd be surprised, Charles, because in my experience at Carver County, the idea of subordinate interviewing their future boss is not done. When I was at Hennepin, we did it. My guess is they'll take more, we were already asked to ask our staff, what questions, what qualities are you looking for? So we've already been engaged in this.
Oh, okay.
And then my guess, and this is just a guess, is Nick will probably, have some sort of form where the finalists, this is very traditional how library directors are chosen.
Okay.
There's usually some sort of form that staff and public are invited to, and some questions are selected, and then they're asked.
Okay.
But it doesn't like the staff doesn't say, no, we don't like that person, don't hire them. It's not a thumbs up, thumbs down.
No, I thought maybe because it's not just hiring someone, it's relational work environment. So they want to get your input to go, well, can I work with this person, or no, this guy is really something else, kind of a thing. So this is my question. I mean, that's what we've
Well,
done
I've
before.
had an experience in my career that the
You're
leadership.
pointing at me.
I'm going to underscore what happened based on what you said. That the leadership team I was on interviewed the new department head or division head,
Right.
and the CEO picked the complete opposite person.
Oh,
Because he thought we needed a culture change. So
Oh, wow.
we kind of felt set up. So yeah, it's got some downsides too.
It is. It really comes down to that connection with who makes that decision, how they integrate that process.
I had the same experience.
So on a side note, how are you holding up, having to wear two hats?
So far, so good.
I didn't plan for that. I just asked that question.
No, it really does speak to team members and colleagues that I'm surrounded by that are very helpful along the way. I'm enjoying the work. There are some very busy days now indeed, so still striving for that work-life balance, which some days doesn't happen so much, but it's great.
Good.
That's good. That's good to hear. Trustee and commission reports. Next one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Patrick.
On my report, I want to point out three things. Page 2 has a picture of our upcycling program. This is a program that Linnea, our adult services librarian, came up with, which was to take old greeting cards and other kinds of supplies and let people make new cards. So there's lots of pictures of canned programs we have purchased. This is showing one of our staff members using their own creativity to come up with their own plan. Page 5 has a picture from Firefighter Storytime, which we've done at Victoria. And I want to highlight this because now we're going to do it at Chanhassen. So this is something that's worked a couple times. I think Jody was doing it when you were there, but we've never done it at Chanhassen, so we're going to do that. And the last thing I want to point out is page 9, which is something you normally don't get from me, which is text, other than pictures. This is something I should have done, I don't know, 4 years ago. When I started is each month I'm going to tell you, just on the librarian staff, just give you some highlights of what each librarian has been working on. Because the pictures, like there's no pictures of Sarah ordering books for some reason. And there's lots of stuff that happens behind the scenes that we don't have pictures of. And I just want you, because these people don't get to come to meetings, for you to know them a little bit. So when she says Heather is doing something, you can refer to this and go, oh, here's the kind of stuff that Heather does. That's me.
So like when you do that firefighter story time in Chanhassen, where would you do?
Oh, we do it in the regular story area in the Wilder room, and then we'd ask them to bring a fire truck down and put it in a circle.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
then
where you
have the
put
kids
it.
go out, yeah.
That's nice.
And they the month before, did a sheriff story time. And it's not like the firefighter takes over the whole story time. They read one story maybe two when you did it.
Right, yep.
You know, because we don't want this idea that like anyone off the street can come in and do a story time.
Okay.
These are trained professionals that do that, but we make these exceptions with these partners.
Thank you.
And they do squad car story time at Chaska.
Correct.
Yeah.
So Officer Julie, same kind of concept. She'll read a story alongside of Jennifer. Jennifer will add, and then we'll go outside and everyone gets to see the squad car and interact.
It's interesting because for Chaska, the police station is just right around the corner.
Right.
That's the same with Chanhassen too, it's just right up there.
Yeah, and the fire station is a block away.
Okay.
Incidentally, I like this idea a lot, even if it's not monthly, but maybe a couple of times a year, or even at least once a year, reminds us that there are lots of people doing lots of things.
Thank you. I just gotta get my time machine and have done it 4 years ago.
And with Chaska.
Sure. Jennifer already mentioned one thing that I was going to highlight, so I'll just reiterate briefly, but she's had the opportunity to do some outreach with the ECFE program at the Family Learning Center in Chaska with District 112, working with diverse books and diverse story times. So we were just chatting informally earlier today back at the branch, and she was saying how she's seeing some new faces because of that outreach, which is wonderful. So building that trust, building those relationships, and then having them come in and visit the library. So that's been fantastic. And the book deposit collection that she helped take over to ECFE was sponsored by our Friends of the Library at Chaska. So they're very excited about that as well. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of staff members that are leaving us or have left Chaska, one of which is our catalog librarian up in administration. So she had been with us for 22 years, so she's moving onward, and so we'll have some shoes to fill there in the coming months. And then one of our associate librarians as well is moving on for a new opportunity. So we'll have some new team members to search out right in the midst of lots of other things happening. But we're doing our best, thanks to some of our other team members around the county as well for taking on some of those tasks. So I'll end on a more positive note that we were part of the Downtown Business Alliance Trick or Treat event and just had a great turnout again on that it was a beautiful Saturday afternoon, and great way to interact and get lots of different families in the library space, hopefully some of which maybe have never been in there too, so that they'll feel welcome to come back. So.
Yeah, I think I was driving by downtown and there was lots of kids walking around doing trick or treat on it was a Saturday. Right.
So we gave out glow sticks, so we stayed away from the treats, but did glow sticks, and then book sale coupons for the December pop-up sale, so kids can come back with the book sale coupon, get a free book at that sale in December with Chaska. So,
Good.
yep.
That's a good idea. Now we have the Paul.
Sure, I'll just sort of echo a point, and that is that at Watertown, we had 2 community events that we're able to participate in this past month. Ladies' Night Out, which happens in City Hall, and as well as the merchants that are up and down Lewis Avenue, is they have their doors open and they have special things going on. And then for merchants in the community that don't have a door on Lewis Avenue, is they're able to be in the community center, the library, City Hall area. And so our Friends of the Library group set up a table out in our hallway, and then they donated some things for the door prize raffle and some other stuff like that. So we had Ladies' Night Out, and then trick or treat on Lewis Avenue. That's always a huge number of kids coming by. And then staff had a craft going on inside the library as well, so we had a lot of traffic there. Bringing people in that may not always be in the library. Just got an email today that they're going to have a Santa event in first Saturday in December. So staff are figuring out how we can plug into that, probably similar to what we do when they have their Easter egg extravaganza in City Hall. So, this is just, I've talked about this before, it truly is one of the just special dynamics that we have there, being a part of a downtown, a small town downtown environment for which foot traffic and walk-ins are part of the culture. And how much our Friends Group and Chamber of Commerce and library staff all work together to really capitalize on that and make it just a lot of fun. Here at Waconia, and thanks to the admin staff and everybody that's been working hard on the ordering side of things, is here at Waconia, and on your way out, if you'd like to swing through, and I'll tell you right now, it won't look like much, and that's the beauty of it, right? It looks like it belongs, and that is that we have a whole new array of book bins for the Easy Reader collection. The ones that we previously had, you'll see in the corner over here, and they're parked there on their way out the door. And if you grab a hold of a couple of them and give them a wiggle, you'll see that they do indeed wiggle, which is not what we want, right? These things have been on wheels and have been pushed around as we do programming here, because we don't have program space. And like Chaska and other branches, is every time that we want to make a little elbow room for a program, we've got to move furniture around. And over a longer period of time of pushing and pulling on these bins, is the seams start to separate, and the particle board type stuff, there's just no repairing it. So at any rate, we got a lot of great, 18 years, whatever, of use out of these, and so we're glad for the new ones. If you had wanted to see something similar to the old I Love Lucy comedy skits, you should have been here the afternoon that these things were delivered. Trying to get them in the door, we had about a half an inch of leeway between the door frame, and we knew they were going to fit because we already had one of them in here, so we knew it was going to work, but it was quite the afternoon getting that stuff unloaded. And many thanks to Facilities for not only this particular furnishings project, but the next item, and that is, and the pictures are in your packet, of the new service and information desk at the Norway America branch. Long story short is we did have some ergonomic challenges with that older desk that had been there. And part of the issue with any library that I've worked in is where we have a variety of differing staff working at the same piece of furniture, right? And we're all different sizes and heights and body shapes, and have different constraints and things with our elbows and backs and arms and knees and stuff like that. And so longer story short version is this replacement desk has been welcome. and the staff from county facilities who had to reroute data and electrical lines underneath our floor, right from the garage that's below the library, coming up, is just one of the many tasks that we've had to do. So our challenge right now, and we knew this when we ordered the desk, and that was we weren't quite certain how we were going to affix the plexiglass shields surrounding the desk. And the vendor does indeed have glass partitions, which, if you take a look at this picture up here, is what we've got on order. But where there is what are called the transaction counters for people to slide their books on, is affixing plexiglass or a glass partition on there is a different challenge. So this is still a little bit of a work in progress. We know our fallback will be what we've currently done throughout the pandemic, and that is have like sort of an L-shaped bracket that is secured down onto the countertop. But you know, it's such a spanking brand new, good looking desk is to have something that looks temporary. So we're still trying to figure that out.
So is the desk ergonomic? I mean, in the mean that you can power it down, power it up?
Exactly. This now has and we did this up, and thank you for asking, is we had the same issue up at Watertown, and about 2 or 3 years ago is we renovated that desk to have an area that would raise and lower, and that worked so well, the staff said, here too, please. and so that was part of the design of what we brought to the Norwood project, was to have both actually ends of the desk are now able to raise and lower, and meet the height needs of the individual staff that are there on that particular shift.
Is that the same too in Chaska? Do you have that kind of ergonomic desk?
At the information desk, we do.
Okay, but
The
just
first desk as you
right,
walk right
right,
in.
right.
Mhm.
Okay, and
Yeah.
Chanhassen too? No? Any plans? Were there any plans for that?
Not in my budget. Not in the budget I just submitted, no.
Yeah, I think it's very common right now. Like even my office, all our desks right now is has powered up, and I bought one for myself, but I didn't buy the motor one. I bought the pneumatic ones because I was reading that if the motor ever dies, you're kind of stuck in one spot.
Yeah. And then if you'll just turn around and take a look, as you'll see pretty much around any empty space where there is a little bit of floor spaces, we have cartons of books. These are book sale remainders from not only the western branches, but also from Chanhassen. I don't know if we took any from Chaska. But we've got 177 cartons of remainder books to go out. They actually only take them in increments of 40, so 160 of these are going to go out on Thursday, and the remaining cartons we'll hang on to until we have enough for next shipment.
Where do they go to?
Better World Books is an agency, a nonprofit agency that we partner with, and they will then use these books as books, right? So they're not going to become recycling. And they do a couple of things. They actually run an online bookstore, and from that profit, if you will, because they are a nonprofit, is that then allows them to send us the cartons that are uniform in size, so they stack easy and they ship well, and they're going to send a truck out. And so there are literacy programs that they do throughout the country, and I believe even beyond the country, or will then bring books to communities in need. And so they do a lot of work with literacy in underserved communities.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Do they send those books to like countries that are more poor, but
Yeah,
they want
something
to
like
educate?
Books for Africa, that kind
Right,
of thing.
right.
Yeah, I'm
Or
not
even
sure,
in Asia
yeah.
Pacific.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure of the scope of how far they distribute, but I believe that they're very credible and a good agency. And so, and the fact again that these are going to continue to be used as books, I think is a wonderful thing. So, and all that is free of charge to us. We just have to box them up, tape them up, and have them ready to go. And I don't, for anybody that's wrestled with book sale remainders and incoming donations for which you can't use them, is we kind of don't have a lot of options as libraries. And so it's behind-the-scenes struggle that we're very glad to have BWB as a partner.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions? Well, next is MELSA. You went to the MELSA conference, were you going to give us an update?
For the MLA, oh, love to talk about it, so I'm just going to
Wing it.
filter myself here because it was just a privilege. And I'm grateful. Thank you, Carver County, for sending me. It was wonderful. Well, I'll mention something, just the room, hundreds were there in the convention center, entertainment and convention center. And maybe one of the neat things is, I'll just start with my first session. The titles, maybe I should let you know what some of these titles are. Everyone was spot on excellent. You don't need special trustee things for us. Of course, to meet and to talk about how we should be working with the legislature, that nothing like that took place. But anything that you would attend, a board member would attend. For example, my first one, I think, was What's Cooking in the Libraries in Minnesota? And it was a complete overview of everything you do. I have notes on all of it, but I don't think you want to hear that right now. But for example, another one, introducing 23 linked data things. Let's get learning. Let me go into, it's lunchtime now. Judge Alan Page. I should bring out pass around a photo of him. And he was thinking of you, and his whole library board meeting today. I can find this very quickly. It is worth seeing how wonderful he looks.
Are you a Viking fan?
Oh, sure. Okay, I will just pass that along. Here's how he dressed. He walks with a cane now, and he had a red bow tie and red socks.
Yeah.
And it was an interview format, which was just excellent. Hundreds of us sitting around a table. I had the first table in front because I linked up in the hotel to going down to enter. Who was standing next to me but a wonderful librarian who works in the prisons. And oh, she was so interesting. All day long we would link together. However, when he was asked questions by someone librarians all know, he is one of your most mature in age librarians in the whole system in the state. Two of them sat at a round table. And he was born in Canton, Ohio, and at age 8, he wasn't thinking of being a football player, he was thinking of going into law. He talked about later on his foundation, and I was astounded. He had to pull information from him. He's not a person who wants to brag, but his foundation has given money to 8,000 boys and girls to further their education, college. And the last question of the whole hour-long session was, what can librarians do to help you in your foundation work? And his first answer was, send a check. And then he said, librarians, tell all the boys and girls to read to learn, and let them know that if they work hard, they could apply to the foundation. And the whole place just stood up and clapped for him. My luck was on the first day with the first session, and I'm not sure it was the last name, librarian's name, Snow. Do you know Snow? She was in the Watertown
Maggie.
Library many years ago.
Yeah, Maggie Snow, she's head of Minitex now.
It was Maggie, and it seemed to me like, I sat in on her session, and it seemed to me that she was even one of the chairs of it, because she was the last one to leave, and so were we, my friend in the prison. So this very nice person was sitting next to me, and she is from, her name is Erica Forsyth, from the Waseca Public Library. And we were waiting for the speaker to start, and I think I used the word outreach. And that just clicked, and we talked about what she does in how wonderful her library is. And apparently she was writing this note while I was taking notes. And here's what she said to me. She slapped it down on my notes, and she said, "Welcome to town. Here's what we do. We network with the police, hospitals, schools, chamber and businesses and museums. We work to be," I have to use this, she writes tiny, "to be essential service. We direct people to public health, social service, and all businesses, the bank and the post office. We provide knowledge, entertainment, enrichment, and exposure." And then she wrote the word free, free, free. "Non-discriminating, safe space." And then she ended with, oh, and even people inquire who the local lawyers are. And she said, "Some people call us in daily for the weather report." And she is that library is a true hub. I met people like that. The whole convention was just energy. I met all of these passionate people. Didn't matter how many years they have been doing this, they felt just like you do, and like our board members. Next year it's going to be in St. Paul, and I just hope that we can cross the river and all of us can go in for, it's going to be much earlier than it was, it was late October. I won't read any more titles of the sessions, but I am sorry that I missed Kristen, who probably presented on the first day, Thursday, and I was just there all day Friday. But
Was it a 2-day or 3-day
it was
event?
2 days, starts with
Thursday?
breakfast. This is just like the reading conventions that I attended for 30 years. We have the Twin City Reading Association, the Minnesota Reading Association, and the National. And I remember, I want to end with this, that I remember when I was in Dallas, and I want to ask you, did any of you, as a very young child, you were either probably in kindergarten and first grade, and your librarian or teacher read Make Way for Ducklings? Does any of that
I know
remind
that
you?
title.
Well, of course, it is by Robert McCloskey. He was had a Caldecott Awards twice. He wrote Homer Price, Blueberries for Sal. You might remember all of this. And I remember a presentation he made. So I was just in my early 20s when I went to that convention all by myself. And he told the story. These wonderful authors have been going to libraries all of these years. This isn't new that they come to libraries, and it's filled with children. And so he was paired to sell his book with a person who was talking about plants and fauna and so forth. And this man, he had a ladder, and he described how his plants were perched all the way up. But then McCloskey would finish second, and the children would listen to his report, and kids were going like this. I can remember I was yawning to show how the kids were enjoying that. But one time, after many sessions going from town to town, accidentally Robert McCloskey's foot kicked the ladder, and down came all the plants, and the children all laughed, and they just loved it. And so he talked into this intelligent man about how to reach children, and so they had their little shtick forever after that. And so I'm saying this to encourage, just in my life and in this wonderful convention that I attended, that bringing in authors is really special. It's so meaningful that I remember it to this day. I've heard many more since then, of course. In summary, I'm saying thank you to Carver County to encourage us to go like this.
And did they announce the dates for next year, or just said earlier?
Oh, they did. It's certainly earlier in October.
So it'll be early October instead of such a late time in October.
Okay.
I have to compare this. I attended the last two too, but as you know, they were on Zoom. And I can't say that one is better than the other. I think a hybrid is good, because just think anyone can attend. You could have one set up in one of your libraries, and we could come in and just run it all day Thursday and all day Friday, but that isn't the way they are doing it now. We are back to a real convention, meeting librarians person to person.
So did they have it as hybrid this time, like where
They
all
didn't, but
sessions
that
could?
was my idea. I thought,
Okay.
oh, how wonderful, so that all people from all staff members could check in to just for a few hours, watch the titles that they would like.
Because if they always can do hybrid, that means they can always record it and then someone else can go and listen to it after that.
Right, that would be.
October 4th to 5th.
Oh, that's so much earlier than this year. Alan,
Yeah, thank you. I have two things I want to talk about. One is the Friends of the Library, Norwood Young America, and the other one is my role in the foundation as treasurer. The Friends of the Library had a book sale, and it was over MEA weekend. Profit was $484, which is very satisfactory. And the Friends of the Library decided to participate in the Chamber's holiday extravaganza coming up, and that involves people through the community, through the Chamber of Commerce, purchasing a wreath and decorating it. And the theme this year is a movie, a Christmas movie, and so that's to be decided, and a lot of energy there, and it's moving forward. The Chamber of Commerce also had a mocha coffee meeting at the library, which is something done every month, and it was very successful, I thought, and we went around and gave our immediate goals, what we were going to do. Goal was, what are our goals? What are we going to do? So I thought that was pretty interesting. We were asked to participate. The other thing, the Treasury, Foundation Treasury, we're getting together and moving together and working on getting that done. It's a pretty slow process, and but I've been given a number of duties, and they are file tax reports, which Jody has already done for 2022, file Minnesota Secretary of State annual renewal, which already has been completed, and file Minnesota Attorney General Charitable Organization annual report, which has been completed. So the rest of my duties are to sign checks as needed, approve monthly payment to the accountant through email, which is a process that has to be set up. I missed the foundation meeting. I'm not always so good at making meetings. I've missed 3 meetings this month. And review the accounting records for accuracy, and bring any financial issues to the attention of the board, and anything relating to financial matters to the board for resolution. So I feel good about it's come together. We're sort of coming together. We're meshing. Tomorrow I will visit the bank to do my final signature. I've sent in all my credentials, my driver's license, personal information. So we're moving forward so that I can get to the second part here, signing the checks and reviewing the account, a balance statement. And I just have the feeling that it's a pretty good little team. So I'm pleased, I guess.
how big is the group?
Oh, I think there's probably 4 or 5. There's a foundation president, a bookkeeper who is outside of the agency. I don't know if she's an accountant bookkeeper. She has the software to show us what needs to be done. So I think she's going to be a teacher. And Jody's going to monitor us. She's on board. And Dave Dowart is the president, whose signature is also on the board, and whose signature this also needs to be given to the bank so that we can get the information. So I feel on top of it a lot more than I did last month.
Congrats.
Sounds good.
That's it. Oh, I wanted to say one other thing. Friends of the library, you know, we're always obligated to take part, put in so many hours. A double schedule, and my wife Joyce filled in for me. She substituted for me. This is not typical. So I was pleased that she did that. I mean, this is a domestic thing, you know? So, her favorite and most frequent word is no.
Thanks for sharing.
And then finally, we have, thanks Alan. Finally, we have the media packet. Do you want to talk about it? Who normally? Well, Heidi normally talks about it, so I said, oh, okay. Well, the only one I'll say is that there is the article about Heidi right here.
Yes, there's a nice article about Heidi.
And I did read it. I was
Absolutely.
like, wow,
Mhm.
man, she's been around.
Mhm. So be sure, if you haven't, to take a look at that.
Has anybody talked to her since the retirement?
I got an email from her, just said she was doing well and asked me to go do some traveling,
Oh, good.
her first time in a while.
Oh,
What the, oh, Teen-tober, get it, October.
So can I have two things. So typically we don't meet in December, are we meeting in December?
That was the question I asked Jody just when I came in early, and then I said normally, and I think schedule, but we normally don't meet. And then she said that normally Heidi would say, yeah, we're not gonna meet, but I'm gonna put it to the floor. Do y'all want to meet in December, or do you want to skip it to January?
Well, I would think it depends if
If
like
there's
business.
business.
Yeah.
Is there any business that
Address.
for us to
I know
address?
I've got a conflict already
Right.
later that night, so.
There's no policies, right?
No, we don't have, yeah, and no,
board and no team reports.
no board actions that need attention at that point, so.
So do you want to put that motion, and we'll ask a second?
Oh, we have to do that? Okay. I'll make a
We'll do that.
motion
Do we do
that
that?
we meet next in January.
Or do we cancel the December, because it's already on the paper,
Okay,
so do we?
Cancel the December meeting
Right.
and meet in early January. whatever
Can I
the-
get a second?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Unless something comes up.
No more.
I can't believe there'd be anything that urgent that couldn't wait for January. And then my second thing is, I forgot what you said about the latest on, like, if I'm gonna be gone for 2 or 3 meetings, is there gonna be a way to call in or,
We can set that up.
okay, like a
Um,
call in or video?
Yes, yep,
Okay,
yep,
and that's okay now, because for a while there, it's like all or nothing, I thought.
right, but I believe we can. I will doubly confirm that.
I think not
I'll
just
be
that,
in
right?
January, but-
Because I was just thinking, like, if I was, let's say if I was exposed to COVID and they want to come in,
Yeah,
that we could do it like
yeah, it'd be a nice option.
virtual.
Yeah.
That would be a nice option too, but you gotta let Jody know or the team know.
And it may just be tied more to, we just have to get that announcement out in a timely manner for a
Okay.
public meeting notice.
Okay.
So as long as we plan ahead, especially, that will be helpful, so.
Okay, so yes, I would like to propose that, if I need a motion, that we move forward on that for more flexibility.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Do we need a motion for that, or? I guess it's, we think that's, I don't think we need a motion for that, it's just that you need
I don't
to
know, I just had a
let
question.
Jody know, and then she can coordinate it. Would
Okay,
that
And
be
then I
okay?
think you and I
Yeah.
connect to verify that.
Right.
thank you.
And what was the time, not that I'm planning it, but there's a timeline because we're gonna have to set up for Zoom. I'm
Things
assuming
like,
that.
you need to give 2 weeks notice, if I understand correctly, ahead of time. That was what I remember Heidi had mentioned to me.
Okay,
Well, 2 weeks or at least a week notice, that's why we had to get this thing out ahead of time. Go ahead.
And I forgot to mention my report, if I may, is there's 2 handouts there for you. One on the teen 6-word contest, which, okay, 3 things actually. There's the winter brochure, seasonal brochure, there's a handout on the teen 6-word contest. And so far what we've
that's
got
like-
reported are the participation levels.
That's the
The
extra
judges
agenda
are working
material, so
on
it's
the
this
report, on the awards.
Yeah, you can pick them as you go.
They're always fun.
And then also, there's a handout on the teen fine waiver program for the past month, and the levels of fines that were waived. Thank you.
So we'll all pick one up on our way out.
Yes, sir.
So I'm gonna call meeting adjourned. Can I have,
I move we adjourn.
can I get a second to motion that? Everybody say aye.
No second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No second.
Aye. I second it myself, so good.
Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Oh, I'm
guys.
gonna leave
Huh?
this, you're tough with the ladder.
Very good. I will turn it in.
I don't know, I just try to keep
Plenty
it
of-
procedural.
I won't see you until January. No. Do you have any plans?
I might actually sometime in
So for the
December go
January
look at
meeting,
some
I'll try and
colleges.
visit with you.
I think
maybe it's a
for
week
this
or so
next
before.
year, because I'm a senior right now.
I'll email.
So in this next year,
I'll email
after
you.
my senior year, my first year of college.
I think I want to change the email because
And
the
then
email I
get
have
general courses
is too
done,
much
and
junk
then when I
mail.
start actually
So
pursuing
sometimes
my
I get,
major,
it gets
I think I'm
lost.
gonna go to
So then
Florida,
periodically I'll just
Florida.
search for Carver and then
So
then I'll
and
see.
then even on
I understand completely.
There's so much junk mail
Yes,
and
I know,
I
it'd be
keep
fun.
opening a new email and then eventually it gets filled up
I
with
think
junk
about going
mail,
to
so.
UCF, and my family's actually taking.
Junk mail is
That's
annoying.
okay.
Yes.
Exactly.
We hope, okay,
Oh, I like
well,
the
we hope to
because I
hear about your
more-
fun.
Yes.
Are we gonna miss you? We're gonna see
Are you gonna be
you.